Hey there, so today we have another review, and this is my first time trying Espresso KBS. So this is their famous KBS, which is Imperial Stout. This one comes in at 12%, and it is chocolate coffee aged in bourbon barrels. And then pretty much what they've done is they've aged it with extra espresso. I would have guessed, or possibly, or probably quite true, that they've aged the beer on coffee after the barrel aging, and then I guess you're just adding more espresso. Or the other interpretation would be that they age it with coffee in the barrel, which doesn't make sense, I mean, ideally. And then add espresso after pulling it from the barrel. I don't know. Either way, extra espresso. So it could be double espresso KBS. But anyway, this is quite fresh. This was bottled about a month and a half ago. So really fresh, yeah? So let's dig this guy. Beer is quite dark, really nice, wonderful black color. Has a beautiful kind of like medium to medium plus brown head to that. Nice carb on that. And that's that classic espresso nose. It's just this rich combination of bourbon, this like spiky, spicy, boozy bourbon character, along with coffee beans / espresso, this kind of like, it's just a signature kind of like vanilla extract, bourbon spiciness, woody quality with a little bit of the roasted malt and this really kind of forward, not sweet, but like a bitter kind of coffee note. And then the sweetness you get from that kind of like vanilla tone and that kind of like chocolatey character that the beer has. It's quite distinct. Very coffee forward, yeah, and boozy. Really nice and warmed up. So yeah, I guess I sort of taste a difference. I mean, again, ideally would have it side by side, but then we'll buy more bottles of stuff and etc. There's a really forward acidic attack of espresso here. This is definitely more coffee forward than I'd say regular KBS. Obviously the intention, it's quite bitter, yeah. Definitely for the coffee fiends out there. This honestly tastes like I just had regular KBS and then just dose some super concentrated cold brew or cooled down espresso in there. It really has that kind of intense, bitter, like almost like chicory, kind of like just like this bitter espresso thing. I mean, it's exactly as advertised as their goal. Behind that, it's this really nice kind of chocolatey, milk chocolate thing they have, a little bit of that Hershey's, and then it has that kind of vanilla tone. After the mid palate, a good amount of booze and wood comes in. KBS is quite distinct for me in how it shows its bourbon character. It's not that kind of like wrapped around cookie brownie batter kind of thing that Bourbon County does. Instead, it's more that, you know, rely on the elements and let me show you the elements individually. I mean, they obviously all wrap around into a single beer, but you know, you taste a really strong espresso here and / coffee. Taste that kind of chocolatey note. And then you also taste that kind of woody, alcohol forward bourbon character. It's just a little bit more sharp compared to some beers that end up melding it into the barrel, the barrel into the beer, like super harmoniously. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I think some people would like this because they like bourbon, and it just shows a little bit this hotness, and then the fact that it's barrel aged is just more obvious. I guess it's a little bit more disjointed, which again, not necessarily a bad thing, just different. For me, it comes off a little bit too sharp. I think the espresso just tends to dominate the balance of this beer. Granted, the beer, again, seems a little bit disjointed when you have regular KBS because it's like very peak forward in the sense that like peaks on coffee, peaks on chocolate, peaks on bourbon. Now it's just like the bitterness and roast sort of like pushes too heavy up front, and then it tends to dry out the beer so that it seems to accentuate the dryness and the bourbon of the beer. So it's like, you know, peak and peak of the bourbon and the coffee. And like the midtones of the vanilla and the roasted malt sort of just like get a little bit hidden because of that. And it's just because that espresso is just so strong and this is fresh. If I had this, I would try it fresh. and then age it, like maybe 6 months, a year and a half, 2 years, just like let it go a bit, because this fresh coffee is just way intense, I think. And not in like an undrinkable way, just like in the balance of what I taste in this beer, just a little too much. So, dials just turned off a little bit too much. Very tasty still, obviously. Fantastic beer. Let's go with a solid rating. Definitely for the coffee lovers. And as you drink it more, this is really nice kind of complexity of this kind of like roasted kind of quality that sort of like shines, lingers on the palate. The espresso just like, it's not only all burnt, but it's just this kind of lingering coffee flavor that just like echoes and echoes and echoes, which is a nice complexity to the beer. Let's go with a 90 Espresso KBS. Fantastic. Very good stuff. Until next time, guys. Cheers. Later.